You ready to do this, Matt?
Yes, sir. Punch it, Chewbacca.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot is Matt Shaw. We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 169. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us at the website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Matt, I am once again podcasting with you from the basement of the Fortress of Nerditude, and you are in the parts unknown of Texas Fortress of Nerditude. What is going on?
Yes, the remote base is well kept and secretive. Yeah, man, things are good. It's been a week. It has been a week where we're sleep training Lando, trying to get him to get into some type of schedule because he's at that age where he doesn't need to eat all the time at night. And so,
how's that been going?
Really well. I mean, there's been maybe a night or two. We started him off about a week ago. Last week I recorded the podcast in the kitchen to be as far away as possible to not catch any cries. And now I'm inching my way closer to where we normally record. It's been going pretty well though. He's always been a pretty decent sleeper, and hopefully tonight is a good night. You know, as all parents know, you never know what the night is going to bring. It used to be relaxing. You're like, oh, I can't wait to sleep. And now it's like, gosh, it brings anxiety. Yep. Like, is my toddler going to freak out at 3 a.m. or is my infant going to freak out at 6?
Is your toddler going to wet the bed, or are you going to have to change sheets in the middle of the night?
You know, you just don't know what's going to happen. And that's kind of been our world right now. We just don't know what's going to happen. Life in general is kind of like that. Business is kind of slow. So I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Babies are all over the place. I don't know what's going to happen. So we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants right now and hopes everything works out.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, we had a conversation a while ago, and I won't get into specifics, but you said that, like, in your business, your line of work with what you do with Amazon, like, the fourth quarter is like your big money quarter. That's when you pull in a lot of your work. And so then the first quarter or two tend to be the slower quarters for your business going into the new year, correct?
Yes. So we're in calculation mode where I'm thinking, okay, how many months of what I've been taking can I take before I have to cut back, and we have to adjust our budget for a little while. But
sure,
I mean, we're still at a point we got 3 or 4 months till we need to really start going, holy crap. So we're doing just fine. This week it's been, it almost feels like spring here, which is rain. So it's been super cloudy and rainy, which I like. I enjoy thunderstorms and rain and the overcastness. It just feels nice. And so that's been enjoyable for me. Jesse likes the sunshine, and so, you get what you get. Right. We did go to the San Antonio Rodeo today.
Ooh, how was that?
Emmy and Lando with us, and we went at about middle of the day. It's President's Day, so it was super busy. It was like their $2 day. You can get into like the grounds, and you can check out the carnival and the cattle and kind of the whole shebang, the food and all of that. And it was a lot of fun. I love going to it. I grew up going to the rodeo in Houston, which is like the biggest rodeo in the country. And so San Antonio is obviously a massive rodeo as well. So it was a lot of fun. Emmy wore her Jessie costume and her cowgirl hat and cowgirl boots, and she was excited about it and got to pet a baby chick that she almost choked to death. It was great. It was great. So, it was a lot of fun. And, downtown isn't too far for us. So it's only 30 minutes for us to get to really anything going on in San Antonio. So it was nice. It was a nice day. And, trying to think what we watched. I mean, we've started watching Lock and Key. I don't remember if I mentioned that last week.
We talked about it during Rebel Intelligence.
Yeah, so we're about like two and a half episodes in. Really like it. It's really good. There's just so many shows to watch right now, and there always will be, that it's hard to get lost in just one. Oh man. So we talked about the Oscars last week, I think, in Rebel Intelligence, and Jesse and I went on Valentine's Day for like lunch. We went to Alamo Drafthouse, which is this really cool movie theater out here in San Antonio and elsewhere in Texas. And we saw 1917.
Ooh, how was that?
It was so good.
Man.
It was so good. Highly recommended. It's amazing, the technological ability to make this 2-hour movie feel like it's one shot. I mean, you're literally just following the whole movie in one shot. It's crazy. I mean, sometimes you can be like, okay, there was a cut. Anytime they kind of go behind a boulder or something, like, okay, there's a cut. Yeah. But it doesn't feel like a cut.
But you're saying, like, so they probably filmed really long takes.
Yeah, I mean, they had to film. This is certainly longer than the normal take would be, right? They're not cutting cameras constantly like in a sitcom, like a Community and Arrested Development, where the camera is moving around and it's, shot like a movie. This is shot like a movie, but it's shot in such a way that it's like a one take. It's so cool. Beautiful cinematography. I like the story. I know there are some ebbs and flows and some high times. I know
nothing about this movie.
Man.
Nothing. All I know is I saw a trailer maybe for it a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I thought it looked cool.
Yeah, I would go see it. I really would. I mean, it's still playing in theaters, and I'm sure it comes out in like April on Blu-ray or something if you can wait that long. And I really liked it. I could see myself picking this one up. I really, really enjoyed it. It deserved all the buzz that surrounded it. And our plan is to watch Parasite this week as well. So that was my week, man. It was good. It was good.
Your week sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was
I'm not going to lie. So let's rewind this. Let's do like this is like Rocky 2, right? You remember Rocky 2 starts really at the end of Rocky 1, where we go back to the last round of the fight. End of last week, right after the podcast, like things are going well. I said, Britta's leaving. She's going to be going to California. Boom, all that stuff happens. So, we talk, whatever. She leaves. She goes off to California on Thursday, middle of the day somewhere. And so I've got the kids, and I'm going to have the kids for like 5 days. And Thursday night, I put the kids to bed, and I got on and I streamed some on Twitch, Ep.169, just in case you were wondering. So I streamed some on Twitch. I was playing some more of The Witcher 3, and everything was fine. Then I went to work on Friday. About halfway through the day, I just wasn't feeling great. I was just like, I just feel run down. I feel tired. Maybe I stayed up too late. I don't know. Just, it's kind of one of those, you just don't feel great, but you can't really pinpoint any one thing that's going on. So I leave kind of middle of the afternoon to go home and pick up my kids because of this, thing at the daycare. And there was you had to sign up to let them stay late because it was Valentine's Day and they were trying to do a thing.
Okay.
And I went and picked up the kids and I came home and all of a sudden I realized I'm really not feeling well. And I realized I'm having some bowel distress.
Oh no.
And I'm going to keep this as PC as I possibly can. But let me tell you, it started Friday around 4:30.
Oh, crap.
Started Friday at 4:30. So I definitely canceled the stream for Friday night. I was like, no, kids, we're going to stay in. We're not going to do much. And I'm just trying to like keep the kids busy because all I'm doing is running back and forth to the bathroom like every 10 minutes. It was bad. So prior to this starting, I had ordered tickets to go see the Sonic the Hedgehog movie on Saturday, middle of the afternoon.
Yeah.
I wake up on Saturday. I'm still not feeling great, but I get this like little like window of like an hour where I'm like, oh, hey, you know, the cramping pain that I was having and the constant running to the bathroom had kind of ceased. So I was like, okay, great. You know, this is like right before we're going to take the kids to the movie. I take the kids to the movie, and of course, now I'm in the theater, and I realize I got to use the restroom. Now, if you're a parent and you've got small children, when you're just by yourself and you don't have like friends or family or anyone, and it's an emergency, you got to take care of that emergency. And so I said to both the boys, I said, I have to go potty, boys. You stay here and don't go anywhere. If anyone tries to take you, you start screaming and you scream stranger, okay? And then Jackson says, I have to go. I'm like, okay, great, even worse. So now I'm like, I've got Jackson in tow. I'm holding him by his wrist and like trying to come up because I'm telling you, Matt, I broke the land speed record for what I call the clenched walk. You know what I'm talking about? Where like you're clenching everything and you're trying to move your feet as fast as you can without breaking stride enough that you're going to cause problems. So I'm like doing this, I'm like, come on, come on, come on. I'm just making a beeline for the bathroom. And we get in there. I was like, Daddy's got to go first. And Jackson goes, I have to go now. I was like, fine. No. So I stand there and wait for him. I'm like, okay. This whole time in my head, like I'm freaking out because Charlie's still sitting in the theater by himself.
Right.
Now, granted, there was a lot of families in there and whatnot, but still, Charlie's 7. Charlie's 7. And so I'm in there, and then Jackson finishes, and then I go to the bathroom, and then like I come back, and thankfully I wasn't sitting straight up because sitting straight up all weekend was just murder on me. Wearing those reclining seats.
Yes.
I came back home. And you know when you get so sick, Matt, that you start like having weird thoughts? I started counting the number of toilet paper rolls I went through, and the number was 6, by the way. 6 just for me. Oh my gosh. 6. And I also started wondering, like, is there a Charmin conspiracy going on? Are they putting something in the Charmin that's causing this to prolong itself?
It's
and
irritating
then, like,
you.
some chemical is triggering a prolonged effect. I mean, it would not stop. So the upside is I watched a full season of The West Wing, which is like 21, 22 episodes.
Wow.
And those are like 45 minutes, 50 minutes without commercial. And I watched the entire first season of Mythic Quest, Raven's Banquet.
Yes.
I watched that. Plus I also watched some comedians in cars getting coffee. I mean, I literally just laid down on the couch or laid down on the bed the entire weekend. I stayed home today because I still wasn't feeling great. And I kind of, I take the approach of if I'm sick, I do not want to go to work. I do not want to spread it to coworkers.
Yes.
Not that I think I could be spreading this, but you never know. So washing hands and whatnot. But I got to say, all weekend long, Jackson and Charlie, even though, they're 2 boys and they were crazy boys and bouncing around and, I couldn't break up some of the fights. I just kind of had to let it go. At different times, each of the boys would come up to me and they would come over and they would rub my head or they would pat my shoulder and say, Daddy, I'm sorry you're sick. I'm sorry. And I'd say, okay, boys, it's time to go to bed. And they'd say, Daddy, can you read us a story? I'd say, no, buddy, I can't read a story. I'm too sick. I got to go lay back down again. And they'd say, okay. The whole time this is going on, my wife is on a vacation. She's having a great time, and I'm glad she was able to do it. I'm glad she had a good time. We talked to her. It just was like this super inconvenience of like, this happened and just literally knocked me down all weekend when I had to be home with the kids all by myself. So parents out there probably know this feeling because I'm sure it's happened to every one of us at some point or another, but it was my turn this weekend, and it was fairly miserable all weekend long.
Oh, my gosh.
So Brita did get home today. She did put the kids to bed tonight so I could record a little early because I'm looking forward to going down and getting a little more sleep.
Yeah.
I wasn't sleeping a lot. I was waking up in the middle of the night and, So yeah.
Well, at least it was just one end.
That's true. That's true. If it had been both ends, I probably would have called my mom and said, "Come pick up the kids. I'm gonna die over here, and I don't want the kids to see it." Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was bad.
It gets so bad when it's both ends. There's one time my older brother, he's like the stalwart, valiant older brother. Like most people have them. Well, maybe they don't, but in my family, he's the sickness is going around the family. This is probably 6, 7, 8 years ago on a family vacation in Montana. We had this big get together, extended family, everyone, this big family trip up at the ranch. It's going through everyone. Each little family's getting it. I had it, and I hear downstairs my brother just blowing chunks. I mean, dying for probably an hour or so. And then I hear him whimper, Matt.
Yeah.
I walk downstairs. He's white as a sheet, desperate, you know, asking for, a blessing. At least that's in our church. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so sorry. It puts you at your most vulnerable and most desperate state.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just glad that it was one end. It's still, the thing is, with the way you have it, it's shockingly inconvenient.
Oh, it's horrible.
When you throw up, it's like you throw up and then you're done for a little while at least. Right. You can drink a little bit of water and try and keep it down for a bit. But when it's the other one, it's like,
nope.
There's no stopping this.
There's no rhyme. There's no reason. There's no schedule.
Just live in the bathroom. I mean.
And I had to keep drinking water too. Because
dehydration,
I started realizing dehydration was going to be a real problem. And so like, I'm just dumping more water into my body. I was like, what's the point of this? I'm like, why don't we just like shove a garden hose in my throat, turn it on, and just let it come out the other end? Because that's what it felt like.
Yeah, but did you lose any weight? That's the question.
I dropped 5 pounds.
That's what I'm talking about.
So I will say, on a positive note, I did walk and break my 10,000 step count pretty much every day all last week. And so I was doing really well there, and I've been eating really well. Yeah. And then with this, like, it's definitely jump-starting some weight loss. But the downside is, though, is my Fitbit battery is dying. I charge it now, and I get maybe a day and a half, and then it needs to be charged again. So I'm gonna have to buy a new Fitbit. But
Yep.
But doing well on the weight loss front. Not the way I would have liked to have done it, but
yeah, that's great, man. That's great.
That's pretty much all that I was doing. I mean, this weekend was just me on the floor in the bathroom, just going, why? And then, of course, the kids. But we did see the Sonic movie, and I will say, even with the bathroom break in between, in the middle of that movie, I was not expecting much.
Yeah.
It was a fun movie.
Yeah.
It was a fun movie. Jim Carrey, I thought, did a really great job in it.
Yeah, we'll see if the Bothans have any secrets they're hiding.
Yep. Well, speaking of Bothans, Matt, I think it's time that we get some of that rebel intelligence from them. How do you like to kill them this week? And please stay away from the obvious.
It was too slow last week. Let's just line them up, firing squad. Ba. Dead.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Matt. Corpses of Bothans are out the floor of our feet. And what do you got for me?
So, man, would you believe it? They had some Sonic info they were withholding.
Get out of here.
Those jerks. Who'da thunk? Yo, this is crazy to me. Okay. The first trailer came out last year, and it was a joke.
Right.
The animation for Sonic was an absolute joke. The character design, everyone was just like, oh my gosh. Then they came back and said, we're fixing it. And then everybody got excited again. And then the trailers looked better. And they got rid of that Gangsta's Paradise song that just doesn't fit Sonic.
Right.
And they made it look like, okay, this is like going to be a Sonic movie. And I guess it worked. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's the people that feel like they wanted to see it because the studio showed that they were willing to put the time and money to put in a product that we would like.
Maybe.
But people went to see it. This made $68 million in the US, making it the highest grossing video game movie ever released.
Domestically here in the US, yeah.
That is nuts.
Crazy.
That beats Warcraft. That beats most recently and probably most popularly Detective Pikachu.
It beats the Mortal Kombat movies?
Wow, no, shocking on that one. I'm just really surprised. I mean, and Sonic, the thing with Sonic that I'm surprised by, that this is the movie that did it, is, let's get real. Sonic's kind of a dead franchise. I mean, they're still putting stuff out, but it's not like an Assassin's Creed movie.
Sure.
I mean, it's Sonic the Hedgehog. This is like crap that I got for Christmas when I was 5 years old. Sonic and Knuckles on the Genesis. Like, this is old school.
I really think what it's got going for it, though, Matt, is that I played the original Sonic games, Sonic 2, Sonic 3 on the Genesis as a kid myself. I actually downloaded Sonic Mania from the PSN store for free a while ago. And Charlie and Jackson wanted to play it this weekend. So I fired it up for them and let them play it. And, they're not very good at it. They can only get to the second or the third level and they're kind of stuck. But I think what it was, and I noticed this as I was watching the movie, it's a lot of parents my age with a lot of kids my kids' age.
Yeah.
It's a movie that they know they can take them to where it's going to be a family, fun, kind of clean entertainment. However, it's going to be something nostalgic for the parents. They're going to be more willing to take their kids.
I agree with that. That's true. So I just think it apparently had a lot of things going for it. And I think this almost certainly warrants a sequel based on how much money it's already made.
I mean, they dropped something in at the end that sets up a potential sequel.
Yep. Well, it's going to happen. I mean, Jim Carrey's all about this. He's seemed excited about the role in all these interviews as he's done the press junket, kind of saying, I have not reached my final form as Dr. Robotnik. And it sounds like he wants to keep this train rolling. And
well, the thing was, and I said this a while ago, that I thought he'd be good in this role. But after seeing the movie, I realized they just let Jim Carrey be Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Robotnik never really had, I'd say, much of a personality in the games. It was more just like he was this professor and he had robots and he chased after Sonic.
Yep.
So that's not a lot to work with. So they can just let Jim Carrey be Jim Carrey and go all ham on it, which is what he did. And it was great. It really was. He was amazing in this.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited. I really want to go see it. I'm trying to convince Emmy to go see it. She watched the trailer and she was unimpressed. But wait till I show her it's a video game, and then I think she might be excited about it.
Tell her that Charlie and Jackson really liked it and see if that helps.
That probably will help. She loves Charlie and Jackson. So
I don't know. I mean, I don't know why, but sure, she does. So. All right, so staying in the nostalgia realm here a little bit, Matt.
Okay.
So we talked a little while ago about how there's two He-Man projects, right? There's the He-Man that's the kind of the short series that's going to kind of follow up from the original, and then there's going to be a whole new kind of remastered. Well, the one that's kind of the short series just announced its full cast just this last week. So here's some of the names right down the top that I think you'd be interested in. I think they've got some heavy hitters.
Okay.
Mark Hamill as Skeletor.
Yep. Okay.
Right out of the gate, I went, Mark Hamill is an amazing voice actor. I mean, more people know him now as the Joker than they do Luke Skywalker.
Right.
So you got Lena Headey as Evil Lynn. She was Cersei Lannister on Game of Thrones. Chris Wood as Prince Adam and He-Man. Sarah Michelle Gellar as Teela.
Oh my gosh.
Liam Cunningham, another Game of Thrones actor, as Man-at-Arms. Stephen Root as Cringer. Diedrich Bader as King Randor and Trapjaw. Griffin Newman as Orko. Tiffany Smith as Andra. Henry Rollins as Triclops. And then it just goes on. There's a ton of details on this, but I'm telling you, just looking at this cast list and seeing everyone. I mean, gosh, Justin Long is in this. Alicia Silverstone is in this. Jason Mewes, who, if you watch Jay and Silent Bob, Harley Quinn Smith, Kevin Smith's daughter. Kevin Conroy, who freaking plays Batman in all the animated stuff as Merman. Like, there is tons and tons of well-known voice actors in this thing.
Well,
get
I'm
hyped.
surprised.
So am I. I thought that they would probably use no names.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. I'm very surprised. I'm not surprised by Mark Hamill. He wants to be in everything, I've decided.
I mean, put Mark Hamill in everything. I'm okay with that.
He's something else when he gets on the mic, no doubt. So,
yep. But this is Kevin Smith, so like some of them, like Jason Mewes, that makes sense. His daughter Harley Quinn Smith, that kind of makes sense. I mean, they're talented, but they're friends of Kevin, so it's kind of like Adam Sandler, right? He casts a lot of his buddies in his movies. Like if you go see a new Adam Sandler movie, it's like, okay, Rob Schneider's going to show up, David Spade's going to show up, Chris Rock's probably going to show up, Shaquille O'Neal's probably going to show up. Like there's like a list of like all the people
you do know
are gonna show up. Plus some of his other like lesser known friends, but you would know them because you've seen them in every single movie. Yes,
totally.
But but this is good. I'm kind of excited about this. My only concern is this. It's a continuation of the series I watched when I was a kid. I watched it as a kid. I had a bunch of the toys. I couldn't tell you one darn plot point from 35 years ago when I watched this.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some sort of recap. That's all I'm saying.
There has to be. I mean, come on.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, very cool. Very cool. Well, I will change gears relatively dramatically.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Ooh, love me some Arnold.
Okay, so this trailer dropped this week. It's called The Iron Mask, Mystery of the Dragon Seal.
Okay.
And this trailer has Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jackie Chan. An obvious combination
you've said enough right there. I'm in.
We've been clamoring for these two to get in a movie together.
Yep.
And it is as wild and weird as you might expect a movie with those two in it. So it starts out and it's got Jackie Chan and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Arnold Schwarzenegger has his accent. I mean, he can't do any other accent. He's not an actor, okay? Let's be real. He's not great at acting. He just says what he says in the accent that he does.
Yes, he's typecast.
So he and Jackie Chan have like a little battle. And Jackie Chan's all tied up and he's doing the kung fu type stuff. And it's wild and weird and something you never thought that you would see. And then they hoodwink you because that's not really what the movie is.
Really?
And then you get this man in this iron mask and this journey of somebody else. So this trailer mostly follows, for a lot of it, the journey of this other character who needs to fight this lady who has mystical power. I can't follow martial arts movies to save my life. You put me in front of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and I will love it because they're basically humans flying and kicking at the same time. But trying to ask me what the story is, I don't know. But what I think is that they're using Jackie Chan and Arnold Schwarzenegger as ways to get you to see this movie.
Really?
I think they're very minor characters. And that the majority of this film is following the journey of this iron masked character that will be trying to restore some power, I think, or...
Does it have a release date?
So... I believe the release date, and so apparently, so originally the film was called The Iron Mask.
Okay.
And then they added the tagline, and then it was previously titled Journey to China, The Mystery of Iron Mask.
Okay, that's even worse.
Then there were kind of some other previous titles in China.
Okay.
And so there's a whole bunch of like weird reworks that this movie has gone through. And I'm I'm unsure of the release date. I'm trying to find it to see if they've mentioned it.
So this to me sounds like it's maybe a Jackie Chan film, because I know Jackie Chan does a whole bunch of like movies in China.
Yes.
And he's got like his like own like studio or something. So this sounds to me like it's maybe a Jackie Chan film that like he pulled Arnold in to do some of, maybe?
Yeah.
Or to be a small role?
That's what it appears to me. So this is a sequel to a 2014 film.
This is a sequel? Oh my goodness.
AKA Forbidden Empire, and was released in several international markets last year. So this is already confusing and convoluted, and the fact that you've got Jackie Chan and Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie fighting and then talking and fighting, and he's in chains, and Arnold looks like, to me, like a Britain soldier from like the revolutionary time period. It's weird. It's wild. There's dragons. There's floating. There's weird mystical like pieces of like coin. Just watch the trailer, and it's everything that I'm describing and a whole lot more. It's weird.
It sounds like a hot mess, but it sounds like something I would want to watch just for the Mystery Science Theater 3000 aspect of it.
Right. This is like, do you remember this to me is like a way better looking bad movie version of Matt Damon's Great Wall of China movie. Do you remember that?
I remember talking about it. I don't think I ever saw it though.
Oh, I never saw it. It looked terrible. Like who did see that movie? I've never heard of anyone. It looked like, because I watched that trailer and I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. This is stupid and I will never see it. This one, I'm like, holy shiz, what am I looking at?
Wow.
I might take a look at this.
I'm curious just enough because it sounds bonkers.
That's exactly right. So check it out. The Iron Mask.
Okay. Well, I'm going to switch over to something else that's bonkers, but for a completely different reason. Years and years and years ago, Matt, probably right around the time you were being born, there was this thing that I remember hearing about, that everyone heard about, that was supposed to exist or going to exist, but then it never really materialized. It was the Nintendo PlayStation. They basically took a Super Nintendo and a PlayStation, kind of merged them together. It was supposed to be some prototype, and they were gonna sell these things. Like, that was the plan. Everyone knew that after the Super Nintendo, you were gonna now get Nintendo games with disc drives. It was such a popular, topic that there was, manufacturers and game developers and stuff that were like looking into, how to make this work. So a couple of years ago, this thing actually surfaced, the one like working prototype. And if you take a look at it, I mean, it kind of just looks like a square box with connections for a Super Nintendo on the bottom and a CD drive on the top. And then it's got a slot on the top face of it for Super Nintendo games. Well, apparently it's going up for auction. And it's anticipated with, I guess they're kind of doing like an online auction and whatnot, that it's currently sitting around $350,000.
Oh my gosh.
So that some collector is, going to spend a crazy amount of money to own this, because it's literally a one of a kind. And it was at a time when like Nintendo and Sony were like the big players in the market, and they tried to come together and do something together. Auction's going to close on March 6th. They're saying that because of the price where it's at right now, and because there's some sort of like, the auction house charges some sort of like 20% buyer's premium on all items, that the auction item could actually go for over $420,000 all told at the end of this thing. Oh my gosh. And currently the bidder is someone called Palmer Luckey, who's the head of the VR company Oculus, and now some sort of like military technology contractor that he owns. And so he's looking to purchase this, says he wants to, preserve game history, this, that, and the other. I love the idea that there's something like this out in the wild, but man, I don't think I could spend, even if I had disposable income, like crazy disposable income, I don't think I could spend $420,000 on something like this. Is that something like if you had crazy money, you would buy?
No. No.
Yeah, me neither.
There's a lot of things I would buy, and they would probably cost that much, but a Nintendo PlayStation is not one of the things that I would buy.
I mean, is it even workable? Like, could you play Super Nintendo games in it? Could you play PlayStation games in it? If the answer to those questions are yes, you could, okay, I could see it. But if it's not functional, if it was just a prototype and, like, I don't know, man, you'd just be spending almost $500,000 to sit it on a shelf.
Yeah, that's crazy. The initial asking price on this auction was $15,000.
Right.
This individual is doing the happy dance right now.
Oh, yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yep.
Good grief.
So some of the other things real quick that are up for sale. A sealed copy of Stadium Events for the NES is currently at $35,000. A sealed copy of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is $10,000. And a sealed copy of Chrono Trigger's at $4,300. So, like,
wow. It's
not just like this one thing. Like, there's other video game memorabilia, but of course, $420,000 potentially for this one thing. That's the big one.
That's insane.
I love video games.
Silver Tona.
Yeah, I love video games, Matt, but I'm not going to drop that kind of coin.
No. Nintendo is conveniently every few years placing a classic version of these systems. Right. I'm looking at my Super Nintendo Classic right now. It's got 30 games, $80. I don't need this. Crazy though. Crazy.
That's just if you want to have that one-off prototype that no one else has.
I get it.
But still.
But I also don't get it.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
All right, what else you got?
So last thing I got. You ever heard of this guy named Harrison Ford? He's pretty cool, but he's also pretty old now, y'all.
He was in a movie about some sort of gorillas or something.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yes, also space gorillas or something. I don't know. Anyway.
Gorillas in the Mist. Come on, Matt.
This guy is apparently going to be in Indiana Jones 5, which we have known is coming for years. And we've known Harrison Ford is going to be in it. We still don't know anything else about this movie. However, this week, he said he will be returning to Indiana Jones, quote, in 2 months. And that's it. That's all he gave us. Do we know, are we starting principal photography? Are we kind of not even at that stage yet? Where exactly are we in this? We don't know. However, we do know he's going to start working on Indiana Jones in 2 months, which is great news.
Right.
Which is really great news. And in an article that I read earlier this week, that some of his story, Indiana Jones's story, will be revealed. So there's going to be some resolution to some of his story.
Okay.
I have a feeling that this is going to be his last Indiana Jones movie. So we're going to get,
I would assume so,
resolution with his father, resolution with kind of his just his whole life, what this all means for him, why he does it, why he did it. I think we're going to get a little more closure on the character.
I can tell you why Harrison Ford's doing it. Brinks truck full of cash.
Yes, that's the same reason
he did Star Wars.
Yeah, dude doesn't like Star Wars. However, he's been in it. He was in 2 of them.
Yep.
So we don't know what he's going to be doing exactly in those 2 months. I'm sure news has to start trickling out pretty quick because I think it's slotted for maybe a July of 2021 release date. So you'd expect that we'd be hearing some news here. I just don't know. I'm going to make a confession. I never finished Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. I had a little bit of a hard time with that. I need to go back and revisit it. I was just annoyed with it more than anything halfway through.
You're not wrong.
So I need to get through it. I need to catch up with what's going on with Indy. And I'm excited. I just don't know what to expect. I'm hopeful that it's true, that his comments about learning more about his character and some resolution for him, I'm excited about that.
I love Indiana Jones. I'm not excited about this. I know this is going to be a hot take because I love Indiana Jones, but I'm not excited because the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was kind of that, like, hey, it's been 20 years since we had an indie movie sort of thing. And then we got that movie and it was just hot garbage.
Yeah, it was rough.
It really was. And we're kind of to the point now when, like, you know, Harrison Ford is definitely, you know, past his prime as far as like action movies, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so it's kind of like, who wants to see an octogenarian running around with a whip and a fedora? Like, I would rather see them channel that type of energy into a good Uncharted film, which feels kind of like Indiana Jones in a way. But, I mean, they're very similar. But instead, we got Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and it was not good. Now it's been how many years since that movie? And we're going to get another
10,
one?
12.
I get it. Harrison Ford's still alive. You know, you still want to do something with him. But, I mean, the last one was bad. It was just bad. But the problem is, the studio can make money. And
I agree.
And Harrison Ford years ago said, like, he was done playing Indy. He was done playing Han Solo. He was done playing Decker. And then, what do you know? There's a new Blade Runner movie, a new Star Wars movies, and a new Indy movie. Because they offered him a ton of cash. And he's probably winding down big roles in Hollywood. So, like, why not, like, you know, why not cash out on the way kind of out into semi-retirement? I mean, I know he's got a movie coming out this weekend called, I think, the Call of the
Wild or something.
Yeah,
not getting great reviews, but
yeah, based on a book, right? But he's not going to be in demand like he was, you know, 15, 20 years ago.
Nope.
So I get why he's doing it. I'm not really excited by this.
I'm hopeful there's some type of, look, there were rumors a few years ago about Chris Pratt stepping into the role.
Yep.
Because he makes sense to me as an Indiana Jones type character, just the rugged, like,
yeah, why not
adventure.
Reboot this thing?
I'm hopeful that we're gonna go down that trail at some point.
I think it will happen.
Because I like the Indiana Jones. It's like a period piece. Like I say, it's like a period piece without being a period piece. Yep. It's timeless. It's classic. I just feel like there's more stories to be told about history, archaeology. There's more to be told, and I hope that they don't F it up by putting crystal skulls and aliens and weird crap
That's
in
what
it.
I'm saying. Bring in the Uncharted stuff, because it's kind of like, man, those stories, like the concept of, you know, treasure hunter versus archaeologist are so close. And those games had so many good stories that were nothing like the stories in Indie. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing.
Yes. Anyway, moving on.
Last thing I have. Okay. So we got a teaser trailer for Stranger Things Season 4.
Yeah, we did.
And it is very, very short. But what's interesting is they immediately cut to a chase and spoiled something that was a lingering question at the end of Season 3. So if you remember at the end of Season 3, we end up seeing, you know, after the Russians tried taking over the mall and trying to, you know, get you know, the crack to open up and whatever, and there was that huge, you know, beast, whatever, that was devouring people and then using them to grow bigger. We see this scene where we're in Russia and we have Russians feeding people to a demigorgon that they've got chained up and locked up. And they're talking about the American. They're like, no, not the American. Leave the American alone. And there was this, you know, is it Hopper? Is it not Hopper? We don't know. Well, in this short teaser trailer, it's like the wintry tundra of Siberia. There's a train track that's being built or worked on. And the camera pans up. A guy takes his hat off. He's got a head shaved. The camera zooms around. And it's Sheriff Hopper. So we know that Hopper is the American. He is in Russia. What I think is really interesting about this, Matt, is that instead of trying to prolong this, who's the American? Is Hopper alive? Is he not alive? Da, 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 da. They already cut to the quick. We know it now. And so it's going to give them an opportunity to tell whatever story they want without having to try to fit in, this whole, like, is it him? Is it not him? And playing with people and with the narrative of the story. They don't have to waste time on any of that now.
I agree. I think for me, this was like the least big surprise in the history of anything. Yeah. And I'm glad they just went with it.
Yep.
Like, we all know that Hopper didn't die. Deep down in our souls, when we watched the very end of season 3, we went, okay, there's a chance he's alive. We didn't see him die on screen. Hopper is alive. There are obviously questions that can linger from this. How is Hopper doing?
Yep.
Has he been brainwashed? Is he the same? What's going on? We don't know the state that Hopper is in. Because weird things happen in this show, and just because he looks like Hopper doesn't necessarily mean he's the same guy. Right. So there's a lot of different ways they can go about this, but I think it's smart to just get it out of the way. No more lingering questions about, is Hopper alive? He definitely is. And I loved it. I thought it was great. No, it was perfect.
It's good. It's short. They're not going to give us too much. There's no release date yet. It was just a little quick, like seriously, like a 35-second thing. I mean, it was fast.
What I liked about it, though, is the teaser for season 3 was about the Starcourt Mall.
Right.
And they had like this old 80s style commercial, and it showed really nothing from the movie.
Yeah.
This one, it was like a legit scene from the movie that was completed and filmed.
Right.
And like ready to go, like had been edited, post-production, the whole thing, which gives me some hope that maybe we're going to see this year.
They're currently filming right now.
So I'm thinking we may get that this year.
Could be late. I'd say October, November if it comes.
Which would be awesome. I would be stoked if it came out this year. So that's my hope is we get this next season in 2020, and it looks pretty dang possible.
I think you're right. I think it definitely is possible. We have heard from the Duffer Brothers, though, that they say this is probably the last season. Yeah. So this could be the end. I guess it all depends on how it wraps up, right? If they leave a lot of things open, maybe not. But
yeah,
if they kill off everyone, well, that's pretty finite then.
Yes, it is. Yes,
so anyway, that was the last thing that I had. You said you didn't have anything else, right?
I'm done.
All right. So last week we had a movie club. Brita was on. We talked about the movie Knives Out. We're not going to spoil anything about that now, but we did say that, like, our question of the week was, what's a movie that had a twist or a surprise in the story that you really enjoyed, and why? And so we got a couple responses. We're going to start over email, fortofnerd@gmail.com, where we always do, with Peter Christensen. He says, Dear nerds, greetings from Maui. It's great, it's beautiful, and our whole family is having a good time. Maybe because it's February, but it's a perfect temperature here. Warm and humid, but in a refreshing way, not like growing up in Florida. We've been here for a couple days, so we're still exploring. I'll give a full update next week. I can't wait because we're like little less than 2 weeks away from when Brita and I go to Hawaii, and we're going to be there on Oahu and Kauai. So looking forward to that, Peter. Looking forward to hearing from you. It says, Spencer, did you have an audio issue last episode? Aside from a learning curve in your early episodes, The Fortress has always had excellent audio that, to my ears, is indistinguishable from professional podcasts. The answer is yes. Yes, I did. Before the podcast last week, I kind of messed around with my setup on my desk. I put a monitor stand for my monitors. I raised my monitors up. I did some things to give myself some more room because I just didn't have a lot of room on this desk. And unfortunately, the microphone was kind of buried behind some of this stuff, and I thought it was going to be okay. And then during editing, I realized it sounded kind of like a hot mess to me. So I tried to get it as best I could, but we're kind of back to the old mic setup this week, so hopefully all is well and right with the world. He says, as a rare Suicide Squad defender, at least apologist, I would have seen Birds of Prey, but I generally don't watch R-rated movies, and I definitely wasn't taking my kids to it. I feel bad for the DCEU. Even if Wonder Woman 1984 succeeds, people will say that DC can make good Wonder Woman movies, but it won't help the perception of future DCEU movies. I think you're not wrong, Peter. I mean, Wonder Woman was great. And then we followed up with some of this other stuff that's going on. Shazam I thought was really good, but still, Shazam didn't make crazy good money because everyone's like uber cautious about
late
this.
To the game, yeah.
Yeah, and then Birds of Prey, you know, the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. They tried to change the name. Like, we went to see the Sonic movie, and they still had the posters up with the full name. Because what are you going to do? You're going to send out new posters after it's been in the theater? No. So it's going to be there. It's just a hot mess. I don't know what's the future of the DCEU holds, but I don't think it's that good. I'm worried.
No, the DCEU, the Avengers are, I mean, Marvel is the gold star. DCEU is like the CW version.
If that, right now.
And so it's like, yeah, and there's some good CW shows, so I shouldn't crap on the CW because I watch Riverdale every freaking week. I ain't gonna lie. However, it's not must-watch cinema. It's just not.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree. It's we've talked about this over the last few months. I feel like in random podcasts here and there, we'll just kind of crap on the DCEU because it's not good.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because we like the superheroes in the DCEU and we're not getting what the source material and the fans deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. He goes on to say, for the homework to watch something beloved from my childhood, I rewatched Disney's Robin Hood. It's still amazing, still funny.
Yes.
And Lady Cluck's escape from the archery contest is still the most triumphant moment in any movie ever.
Yes.
He says, I haven't seen Knives Out, so I'm saving the rest of the episode for later. Cheers, Peter Christensen. Peter, I hope you're enjoying Hawaii. I hope you're having a great time. We look forward to hearing from it when you get back. And then we definitely look forward to hearing from you on your take on Knives Out when you get a chance to see that. Let's go over to Twitter, at Fort of Nerd. We've got Paul Calico, at pcalico84, says, all right, so I've called most twists in movies for a while now, but the one that really blows me away was Spider-Man Homecoming, when Liz's dad opens the door and it's the freaking Vulture. Like, I totally didn't see that coming. Thanks, guys. Else time. That was a good twist.
That's a good one. I forgot about that. That's
that was
so good.
a really, really good twist. And
yes.
I do remember feeling like it was a gut punch.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one coming.
Nope.
Not at all.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Tim Paulin, at tpaulin20, says, remember the ending to Gone Girl? The plot twist of what actually happened to Ben Affleck's wife was diabolically brilliant. And I was trying to remember because I know that I saw that movie.
Is Halle Berry in that movie?
No, it was, what's her name?
Gone Girl.
Rosamund something. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, I remember it was something like everyone assumed he killed his wife, But then, like, I think the twist was something like she actually framed him for murder and was totally like living somewhere else. And I saw it once and it was a long time ago, but I do remember that whatever that twist was, that it was really, really good.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see here. The Bottom Line Wrestling Cast says Memento had a great twist. The movie was disorienting to begin with, which allowed for a big twist to be easily interjected because you were always thinking about the previous segment at the start of the next one. So you pretty much feel like Guy Pearce's character feels throughout the movie, very unsure. Impact was that it was one of the first films I recall with a great twist and unique storytelling, which was actually common at the time. Films like Usual Suspects, Fight Club, Sixth Sense. I do agree, Matt. Like, I do feel that there was a kind of a period of time there where it seemed like every movie was trying to like out-twist the other movies.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I've ever seen Memento.
So this is funny. Memento is Christopher Nolan's first movie, maybe?
One of his early ones, for sure.
One of his early movies. And the only reason I know that is because Brooklyn Nine-Nine. This week, their latest episode was talking about that movie and how nobody had seen it. And they related it to Finding Dory instead. And everyone was like, immediately, oh, okay, I get it. So apparently Memento has to do with memory loss because they equate it to Ellen's character, Dory, who constantly is losing her memory. So it was just a cute little thing. So I knew exactly when he said Memento, exactly what it was. Nice. And I feel like everyone who hadn't seen it and was like, oh, Finding Dory. Okay, now I get it.
Right. Mike German, last one here. Mike German at Mike German 13 says, the end of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles when Steve Martin goes back to the train station and sees John Candy sitting alone on Thanksgiving gets me every time. That's a good one. I like that one too. Well, Super Friends, thank you so much for your answers. I and Matt appreciate it. It's one of our favorite parts of the show. Matt, what can the Super Friends do to help us out this week?
This week, continue to listen, subscribe, download the podcast, take us with you on your travels to Hawaii, because apparently everyone's going to Hawaii but me.
Yep, pretty much.
Everyone enjoy your tropical vacations. I'll stay here in Texas where it's cloudy and rainy. And this week, in addition to what you do for us every week when you interact and leave comments and tell your friends, because I know you do.
True.
Pour yourself a glass of chocolate milk. If it's been a while, I'm sorry, because it's so good. Just pour yourself a glass of chocolate milk. And I'm not talking about getting a glass of milk and then pouring some Hershey syrup in it. That's classless. Okay.
Breaking
if
my
you
heart.
want, you either go out and get yourself some Nesquik. It's better than you think and better than you remember. And get yourself some chocolate milk, or buy some of that delicious, here it's called Promised Land chocolate milk. It's so thick. Get yourself some decent chocolate milk, guzzle it down, wipe your mouth, make that noise, and have a great evening. That's what I say.
That's really specific, Matt.
As they typically are.
Love it. All right, Matt. So this week there was some big news that got announced in the video game world. And I'm not talking about the opening cinematic to Final Fantasy VII Remake, although I would love to spend a conversation talking just about that. We're holding off on that until the remake actually comes out, because I know for sure I'm going to be playing it and streaming it. But Bloomberg is reporting about Sony and saying that Sony is having a problem right now with the PS5. And the interesting thing is, the problem is not technical. Not in a sense, at least. It's not technical. It's not like, hey, how do we make the architecture work? But it's about the cost of the PS5. And I thought this would be an interesting conversation, because this kind of takes into account, the gaming culture, which we're a part of, but also the business side of gaming. And there's some history going back, the current generation right now that we're on with the Xbox One and the PS4, and then going back a generation to the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and now looking ahead to the next generation with the, Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. So Bloomberg is saying right now that the current challenge is the PS5 isn't able to get DRAM and NAND flash memory at a reasonable price. Part of that, they're saying, could be, the coronavirus. But really what the big issue it looks like is that both Microsoft and Sony are trying to use the same type of components, which is causing prices to go up because there's, supply and demand issues going on here, which then means that these consoles can't drive their prices down a lot. On the surface, does this worry you? Does this even matter to you if you're just looking at the surface that like, oh, the cost is going to be up a little bit. There's, a shortage of parts, so they're costing more.
Does this worry me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I live in a world, and I think most of us live in a world where the cost of a good is important to us.
Sure.
There are certain costs that I don't worry about. But I would say most places I go, even when I go to a restaurant, price plays a factor. I don't just open the menu and automatically say, I want whatever I want. I look at the price and make sure that I'm making an economical decision. When I'm looking at consoles, I'm looking to make an economical decision. And this may be part of the reason why I have been a Nintendo fanboy for so long, is because they have always been, for me, the economical choice. The last 15 years, let's say.
Sure.
And they continue to be that way. And this article kind of points that out. And we kind of talk, well, maybe I'm sure, later in this discussion, we'll talk about what those prices could be, what that might mean. So for me, yes, it's important, because if your product costs a lot to make, it's going to cost me more to buy, typically.
Right. Yep. So I think you actually bring up something interesting, Matt, is we can bring Nintendo into this conversation a little bit here too, because we're going to kind of look the differences between the history of the Xbox and the PlayStations in this current gen and the previous one. But Nintendo's an interesting comparison because Nintendo always comes in cheaper than the Xbox and the PlayStation. However, the reason for that is they're not pushing the highest and latest and greatest hardware. They really take this approach of, let's just put out the best possible hardware we can for our architecture that'll run these games, and just say, we're not trying to cram as much tech in and get the latest and greatest, which helps keep costs lower. And it does cause a more focus on good games that will play within that architecture, correct?
Right.
So I agree with you. Like, economically speaking, Nintendo's the way to go. Nintendo also has a lot of amazing first-party games. You can't get a Zelda game anywhere else. You can't get the Mario franchises, right? You can't get the Pokemons. You can't get the
Star Fox, Donkey Kong.
Yeah, Star Fox,
the
Donkey
list
Kong.
goes on and on.
Yes, exactly. The Splatoons that are, gotten real big. There's lots and lots of stuff that's only Nintendo. They got that first party or exclusivity, the Animal Crossing stuff, right? That's getting ready to come out. It's going to be huge. And if you're not a big gamer, some of this stuff maybe doesn't matter a lot to you. You go, oh, okay, well, I want to play this game or that game. What do I need to play it on? So you're going to look and whatever. And if it's stuff that's, more for kids, you may be looking at the economical.
Yep.
You may be looking at Nintendo. But what's interesting, though, is about Sony and Microsoft. So we're talking about the PlayStation and the Xbox, is that they're trying to push the latest and the greatest hardware every generation, cram as much in as they possibly can, because they want those technical specs. They want to show off and flex their hardware muscles, so to speak.
And I think that's an important part of this discussion, is how valuable is that? How economical is that going forward? And I guess, it's important for them to know who their market is. Nintendo's already figured it out. They know exactly what they're doing, and they've made that very, very clear. And Sony and Xbox have said the same thing, right? We love Nintendo. We love what they do. Right. They're not our competitor. Right. And Nintendo doesn't view Sony and Xbox as their competitor. Nintendo will always sell a lot of units if they make a good product with good first-party games. They just will.
Yep.
So they're not really a factor in this upcoming console war. They're talking about each other, and I feel like it's becoming, at least in my estimation, I don't know. I mean, it's that two-horse race, but really there's one of the greatest selling consoles in the history of the world, and that's consistently Sony. And in the launch, when we're talking about launches, I did a little bit of research into the launches of the previous generations. So if we go back to PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii, because that's when Nintendo was still launching at the same time, and they were relatively competitive as far as it was a 3-horse race at that time.
Yeah.
For the gaming population. And the Wii ran away with that one. But if we go back to that, PlayStation 3 was shockingly expensive.
Yep.
Inappropriately expensive. Violently expensive.
So,
and the Xbox 360 took advantage of that and outsold the PS3.
So it's interesting too, because we back up in time and we go to the PlayStation 2 and we go to the Xbox. Because they were, competitors at the time. They were same generation. The PlayStation 2 sold like bonkers. I mean, they just sold...
It's stupid.
Like ridiculous. And there were so many PlayStation 2 games. Everything was available on the PlayStation 2, except literally some of the Nintendo stuff and a couple key Microsoft titles for Xbox.
Right.
Now, when the switch from the PS2 to the PS3 generation, there was this dramatic shift where PS3 decided to do this completely different architecture that they'd ever done before. And what that did was that it caused game developers to have to design their games specifically on hardware just for the Sony PlayStation. Whereas normally, if you're a third-party vendor, say like you're an Ubisoft, okay? They make games that are cross-platform. You can play them usually on Xbox or PlayStation. They develop them on their PCs, and then they make it so it's portable to both different consoles, right? But in the PlayStation 3 era, Sony changed the architecture so dramatically from the PlayStation 2 to the 3 that it caused game developers to go out and have to like completely redo their setups and like from the ground up develop for this. It was something that was not anticipated. And so because of that, because of the architecture and the way they did it, they needed all these different processor chips and things that were not anticipated by the industry.
Yeah.
And it had great, amazing potential hardware-wise, but because of that, it originally launched, Matt, for $600 for the 60 gig model or $500 for the 20 gig model. Everyone knew going into the next generation that downloading digital games was going to start becoming a bigger deal. Saving games to your hard drive was going to start being a bigger deal. And PlayStation 3 came out with a $600 price tag for their top-of-the-line model. $600.
That is so insane to me. Even now, with inflation, I mean, it's been years. People pay more for things. To me, it is still like nauseating.
Right, and this is 2006, 2007?
Yeah.
When this came out, like end of 2006, early 2007, like right around there. So they literally priced themselves out of the market, right? They do this whole different complex process architecture, and then they charge an arm and a leg for it. One thing it did have going for it is like you could play Blu-rays, and so I know a lot of people wanted it for that, right? Yep. But then like you go over to the Xbox 360, and do you remember what the introductory price was on the 360?
Was it $399?
No, it was $299 if you got the core, which was like a 4 gig. Or if you got the 20 gig, it was $400. So literally, it was half the cost or a little less than half the cost of their high-end one. So they came in extremely cheaper. They were continuing to build on the Xbox Live service that started on the original Xbox.
Right.
Like the PlayStation 2 really had very anemic online. It was free. It didn't cost you anything, but it was very anemic. And then PlayStation 3 came out and it was just like, oh, it's crazy expensive. Or you could go with a cheaper Xbox, which is going to play most of the games that would come to Sony.
Yeah.
And you can play it for cheaper and you can have all the Xbox Live content. And they had a lot more going for them on the online digital space. Xbox 360 way outsold the PS3. Hands down.
Yep.
Not even a competition. Sony completely was the market leader in the PS2. They completely blundered it, and they completely misshot their market in that generation, and it hurt them. And it took them a long, long time to start making up sales and start coming back from that because it was just so ridiculously overpriced. Okay. Then we roll into the next generation. Do you remember what the PlayStation 4 originally sold for?
I do not. $500?
$400.
Man, I'm like all over the place. I don't
So-
know my prices. Don't put me on the prices right, Bob.
Okay. So what's interesting is when PlayStation 4 came out, they came in at $400 at launch, which is, $200 cheaper than the
Yeah.
PlayStation was at launch, which was about the same cost as the bigger Xbox released at launch. And they had changed architecture. They had made it so it was more friendly for developers. They added in all these social features. They packed in a ton of hardware, the ability to remote play. So you could literally play from like a PlayStation Portable or a PlayStation Vita remotely and be controlling your PS4.
Right.
I mean, they really, I think, took the time to figure out the mistakes they made in the PlayStation 3 generation and figure this out. What's interesting about the PlayStation 4, though, Matt, is did you know that they sold that console at a loss?
Only because I read an article today.
Okay. So they were manufacturing those for about $380, $381, and they were selling them at $400. So essentially they're making $20, but their whole method to that was, hey, let's make up the money in the software side of things.
Yep.
So Sony's king in the PS2 era, they completely blunder going into the PS3 era. Xbox was not the belle of the ball with the original Xbox because Sony was way ahead of them because they had a previous system, the PlayStation. Xbox 360 came out and Xbox 360 killed it. But then we have this interesting switch where when the initial unveiling of the Xbox One came out, Xbox came out and they said, hey, this thing is going to be on all the time. It's going to be a TV. It's going to tie into your TV box from your Comcast provider. It's going to do Blu-rays. They literally featured and talked about everything it can do except play games. They barely talked about the games. They were talking about how it's always on and you're going to have to download. And they started talking about this whole idea of like, you're not going to be able to buy used games because, it's going to, hard code in your game ID from a disc, and it would kill the secondary market of reselling your games or letting people borrow games. And they just really, really missed the mark on what the consumer wanted. And then here's the kicker. $500. It went up $200 from the previous Xbox 360, and they weren't talking about the games. They were talking about the always on, all this other stuff that like people did not want. It was not well received, and PlayStation 4 killed it this generation. Xbox never recovered. They were never going to catch back up as much as they've tried, and they've sold a lot. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they've probably sold, I don't know, I'm going to guess maybe like 1 million units or something. I mean, they've sold a lot. Maybe not that quite many, but they're definitely behind the PS4. So we've got this kind of back and forth, right? These console wars, but it seems like every generation, the other company misses completely the mark. They overprice it. They don't get the market right. So now what's interesting is we're talking about the next generation. And the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. Do you have the stat of what the manufacturing cost for the PS5 is currently?
I got it at $450 a unit.
That's what it costs right now for them to make it.
Oh my gosh, I'm so scared and so sad.
Which, if they go and they follow the price structure of the PS3 to PS4, it's probably going to be like $470, maybe $480, somewhere in that market.
Yeah. Do
you think a price tag of almost $500 once again is too high for a console system? At launch,
I think we're getting to the point where, yes, I think it is. And this is only because my brother has opened my mind to, he's a PC guy.
Right. Yep.
And he's like, look, you've got an option here. You can continue to buy consoles every few years at $500 a whack, $600 a whack, whatever it is, or you can buy a really great PC one time and make upgrades as needed, but you can play all of the games except a couple of the exclusives. And so in his mind as a PC gamer, he says the ideal setup, and most of the people that he deals with in his PC gaming community, they have their PC, their souped up PC, and they have whatever Nintendo console. That's typically, I think, a PC gamer's setup, is they've got their top of the line and then they've got the Nintendo console, and they just skip out on Xbox and PlayStation often. Because even games like Red Dead, we saw Red Dead on consoles, and then they're like, well, it came to PC anyway. Right. A lot of these games are coming to PC anyway, or Xbox, the Microsoft games always go to PC. I mean, they're on the Microsoft store, and some of them go to Steam. So it's getting to the point where I think pricing is going to be a challenge. It just is. And it becomes increasingly challenging when I still think, and I know that they're not competitors, but it becomes increasingly challenging at Christmas time when parents say, are you sure you don't want to switch?
Right.
Are you sure? Because that's half the price.
Mm-hmm.
And the Switch isn't going anywhere. That thing is novelty, I think, kind of like the Wii was, where everybody had a Wii and then they also had another console. If you want people to have a Switch and another console, you have to be priced competitively. I mean, I've already set my price as at the PS5 because I want one, obviously.
Sure.
But my price is $400, maybe $425. And I don't think I'm going to get that looking at these numbers.
I think you're going to have to put a little more aside, Matt. At least if you want one at launch.
Right. And that's what's like, I'm like, it's a little bit frustrating. I mean, I can sell my PS4 Pro assuming that my PlayStation 4 games will be backwards compatible with the PS5. It's going to be really, really interesting to see, because neither of the consoles have released what their retail price is going to be. And at E3, I think we can expect a whole lot more from Microsoft about the Xbox One Series X, whatever the freaking crap it's called. Just call it something better.
It's a horrible name.
Please.
Yep.
And then Sony's State of Play will probably be like the next day. They usually do it right around E3.
Yeah, a week or two later. Yeah, something.
And we'll probably get a lot more information on the PS5. So it's going to be a really, really interesting next few months, a really interesting summer as they ramp up for the holidays to see where they price this, because I want to know if they've learned their lesson or not.
Yeah. So here's the thing that I think is really interesting is that it's one of these things where, like, I look at this and I say that price point's creeping again, but right now it's only creeping because there's such a high demand for the parts. In the PS3 and the Xbox 360 era, they released almost a year apart. And so there wasn't, so like, let's say Xbox One, Series X, and PS5 are releasing a year apart. You're probably not going to have the hardware shortage, so they'd probably be able to get a better deal and get the cost lower. So this wouldn't be an issue. But right now they're both planning on releasing holiday season of 2020. October, November, somewhere around there. I don't think they're going to wait till December.
Fun.
It's going to be crazy. But I think something you brought up that's really interesting to me is the whole concept of the PC gamer. And I agree most games come to PC, which Microsoft has an advantage there because
yes,
they can
definitely.
have their Xbox games transfer over and play on a PC. But here's the thing, the reality of building a PC. Even a console at $500. The PlayStation 4 came out in 2013. We're going to get the PlayStation 4 2013, PlayStation 5 is going to be 2020. 7 years this generation.
Yeah.
I just rebuilt my computer. And to rebuild it for a processor, for a motherboard, for RAM, for a case, I already still had a graphics card that's in good condition. I already still had a power supply, and I already had an OS. Mm-hmm. I had those three things already, but all the things told that I put into it still was $700 or $800. If you were to put a high-end graphics card in, a power supply, and then the OS, you're probably looking at $1,200 to $1,300 to get a pretty decent PC rig.
Yep.
And everyone I know that are hardcore PC gamers, they upgraded that graphics card about every year or every other year. And a low-end decent graphics card for playing games is around $200. They can go up as high as $1,000, $1,200 just for the graphics card.
Yep.
So I always look at it and say, yes, PC definitely, you can pump a lot more hardware specs, a lot more power. But that cost, especially if you're upgrading your video card every couple of years, you are going to spend way, way, way more during a 7-year life cycle than a console. A console is never going to be as powerful as a PC, but it's one of those things where it's like you can purchase it, you can stick it in the living room connected to the TV fairly easily.
Right.
And then you can buy games and your family members can get games for you. It's easier to say like, hey, just go down to Target, go to Walmart and buy me the new Call of Duty game versus saying like, well, here's my, give me a Steam card or,
Yep.
I mean, you can do that, but it's retail-wise, it's a lot easier for family and friends to get that.
Yes,
so I think there's always going to be a market for both, and I think consoles are going to stick around, Matt. But right now, like, I was anticipating the PS5 to be about $500. I just had a feeling that this generation, it's going to go up. I mean, we've seen these ebbs and flows the last few generations, but I feel like the manufacturers, Sony, Microsoft, they want to jam in more every single time. And I think the cost is going to keep going up. And I think a $470, $480, I think even a $500 price point at launch is going to be high, but I still think it'll sell. But I think if we start getting up around the 600 mark again, where the PS3 was, I think that's when you're going to see the backlash. If they can keep it at like $450, if they can drop it to
swallow $450.
Right, if they can drop it to $425, like if they can find a way to drive that cost down, even if they have to take a bigger loss on it, because they'll gladly lose money on it, knowing that they're going to be able to sell $60 games over and over and get a chunk of that retail as well. I mean, they lost money on the PS3. I mean, the PS3 cost $805 to produce, and they sold it for $600. I mean, they were losing $205, $206 on the thing.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know. This Bloomberg piece definitely has me thinking. Do I wait? And here's the other thing, Matt. You just bought a PS4. What, like October of last year?
Yeah.
So the reality is, all the big games that are coming out this year, Final Fantasy VII, Cyberpunk, Last of Us 2, these are all coming to PS4.
Yep.
And so I've yet to see anything that Sony's trying to do to push people to purchase the PS5 at release.
Right.
Like, do they have a game? Do they have some sort of like, if they announced like God of War 2 or Spider-Man 2, or if they'd held off The Last of Us and like did The Last of Us 2 or Final Fantasy 7 Remake till the PS5 and they'd waited, that to me would be a system seller. I would go out and buy it day one. Right now, I'm kind of like, well, maybe I wait a year and a half, and then the price is going to drop and they'll come out with a slim version because all these manufacturers now, they'll put out their release, and then like a year and a half later, sometimes 2 years later, they come out with a slim version where they've gotten the hardware smaller, more compact, and then they sell that, and that usually sells $50 to $100 cheaper than the launch console does.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and that may be the reason I've never bought a Sony or an Xbox system at launch, is I need something to get me to buy it. And I don't know what franchise. I mean, they're putting out some big stuff this year. And I don't know what anybody has up their sleeve. Because it's one thing, when you get a launch of a Nintendo system, you know you're getting a Mario or you know you're getting a Zelda.
Every time.
Right off the bat.
Yep.
And you know that they are going to be 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 games. You know that they're going to be amazing and perfect and polished. When I'm looking at Sony or Microsoft, I'm going, I don't know.
Yeah.
It would need to be, for me, if they want to sell me a $500 unit, you better be making another Star Wars game right now.
Ooh.
That would be probably, honestly, the only thing that would get me on launch to buy a $500 system is a Star Wars game.
KOTOR remake. You heard it here.
But that's why I think this E3, I know that E3 is becoming less and less of a thing.
Right.
Nintendo doesn't even show up anymore. They've done their Direct for a few years.
Sony
PlayStation doesn't do anything. However, regardless, those 2 weeks are massive for gaming. Even though they don't want to be part of E3 or whatever they're doing, they're all part of the same show.
Right.
And so those 2 weeks are going to be super fun and super interesting and very, very informative to... I mean, this is fun, right? It's a console year.
Yep. It's a big console year. Yep.
And Nintendo's got to know that too. That this is a console year, and if they want to stay relevant, they need to be making some serious software first-party games to compete with what's coming out this holiday season with PlayStation and Xbox. So it's going to be really interesting to see what's going on.
I really wonder what Nintendo will do. I mean, they just came out with the Switch Lite, and they got Animal Crossings for them, which is a big franchise, dropping here shortly.
But that's it, dude. I'm here to tell you as a Nintendo fan, there's nothing beyond March. That
we've been told of. And so, maybe they'll come out and they'll drop something and say that there's a new Mario game that's going to come out. A new, I don't know.
It has to be Mario, Metroid, or Zelda.
Dude,
or else it's not going to compete.
Metroid would be a good call because there's not been a Metroid game.
That would be, I mean, if they could find a way to get Metroid Prime 4 out this holiday season, then you're competing with Sony and Xbox, because that's a hardcore game, right?
Yep.
That's not, I mean, that is a scary game, an intense game. I mean, it's by yourself. Like, that's almost a horror. It like verges on horror at times. I mean, it's a fun game.
Even if they were to re-release Zelda The Wind Waker or Twilight Princess, have those things ported to the Switch, those would be huge.
Yep. They've got work to do.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a little worried. This is now, just as a side note, this is the longest since Nintendo Directs have been happening, which is well before even the Wii U. This is the longest drought we've ever had. And so there's a lot of concern in the Nintendo camp, as one who follows Nintendo closely, as to WTF. Like what's going on with Nintendo this year, because we don't know. We haven't gotten a Mario Kart game in like 9 years now. So there's a whole lot of weird stuff going on, and we're not sure what's happening.
Yep. So the question, I think, for us and for the Super Friends this week is, Will you be buying the latest Xbox or PlayStation at launch? Are you in a wait and see period? Or does it strictly just come down to price? What do you think, Matt?
This is price for me. As I kind of mentioned, if they can bundle it in with a game that I really, really want, which for me, it almost has to be a Star Wars game for me to get real excited. I'm not into the other stuff. Spider-Man was good, but I wasn't like in love with Spider-Man. I don't know. They're gonna have to wow me with a software release. They're gonna have to wow me.
So I've been putting money aside. Like I've got some Best Buy gift cards. And so initially I was thinking, I'm going to buy the PS5 right at launch. But now, since I know that some of these big games that I'm excited for are coming out on the PS4 generation, and knowing that the price is higher than Sony wants it to be, and Sony isn't going to commit to a price point till later in the year when they can get a better handle on the hardware, I think I'm in a wait and see period. If they come out and they say, hey, we've worked with BioWare. BioWare is going to be releasing the remastered version of Knights of the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic 2, and they've, done a remaster or an HD upgrade, and here's a Knights of the Old Republic 3 at the same time, so you can, something like that would be crazy. I definitely would probably purchase it day one. If that's not going to be the case, and there's not going to be some system seller, and the price stays up higher until the hardware issue can be resolved, I may hold off a while.
Yep.
So Super Friends, that's what we want to hear from you. Where are you at? Like on the Xbox side, I'm not planning on getting an Xbox.
No, neither am
I. The
I.
Xbox One Series X, they're not giving me enough look at anything that says I want to jump ship, leave the kind of the Sony world to go over there. Plus they're saying that really there's nothing game-wise that's going to be coming for a year or two. So for me, once again, Xbox, I know they've got a strategy, and I know they're trying to build this like cross between PC and Xbox, but like for me, they do not have a grip on what the market's really looking for, I think, as far as the console generation. So I'm going definitely down the Sony road, but I'm a wait and see.
I hear you.
Super Friends, that's what we want to hear from you. Let us know all the normal places. Email, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can call our voicemail number, which is 801-477-7687. We haven't tossed that out in a little while. And let us know, and we will talk about that next week. Matt, I'm getting closer to that old Hawaii trip.
Yeah.
We're going to have to figure out some old magic of the internet and podcasting so we can make sure that we still hit our release dates. But
rock and roll, man.
That's coming up. All right, well, from all of us here tonight at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you. Always.